What's up, you guys? It's Travis,
Jesse,
Justin,
here on the Outrun Show today. Today our topics are, what is a good warm-up? What even is a warm-up? Do we need it? Where does it come from? Why? Warm-up, why? And what is our favorite video game?
of all time. Or what's the best video game of all time?
This
is going to be objective, all right? Not subjective.
Okay, objective or subjective, all-time or individual, what is your favorite video game?
Opening topic just got a lot more intense.
A lot more intense. Stay tuned on this episode of the Outrun Show. Where'd you go?
You go say it is waterable.
Okay.
Waterable.
Yeah. Speaking of warm and opening topic, we love the future familiar or sort of retro dystopian cyberscapes and whatnot, Blade Runner and all that. But I'm really tired of
it to be a reality.
Yeah, I didn't want my dystopian reality to be reality.
Yep.
Like, how long has it been since we've seen Ring?
It's been a minute.
Yeah, well, I think that's the whole point of cyberpunk genre is that it's not an aspiration, it's a warning.
Foreshadowing, a warning.
Yes, that's what Blade Runner was. That's how at least I view, people who write those dystopian science fictions. It's like, don't let it happen like this.
Right.
Orange is cool on screen, but yeah.
Yeah, I remember the first time. So right now we're in Fort Collins, which by I think it was Livably or whatever, some site that was either paid or is actually legit rated Fort Collins now the top place to move to in this.
Oh
yeah, right.
I saw that. Livable or something.
Livable, yeah, livable. And I think I see a lot of those things, and it's cool.
Less livable. Is that where we're at now with rating places? We're not just like, hey, this is the best place to raise kids. This is the best place to go explore. This is just the best place to survive.
Yeah, livable.
Like if you want to survive, Fort Collins. That's where you can survive.
Right. What are we after? Livable.
Livable. Just most livable.
Yeah. And so Fort Collins was number one in the most livable cities. And sometimes these sites, everybody gets really excited, and it usually circulates in their town when their town gets ranked number one. It's something like the best place to move to and whatnot. And you can kind of look at the other towns to get an idea of what is really being said there. And oftentimes I see cities being ranked like number one place to live that's like from my hometown. Now, I'm from a town in Iowa. It's not bad, but it's not number one. Like through the lens of maybe living in this, it could, I don't know, but it's not number one. And so I'm always skeptical when these come up, like what city council paid some website to be number one.
Or what data were they pulling to do that stuff? That being said, we all love Fort Collins.
Yeah.
We enjoy being here, but...
Fort Collins is a number one city. I could totally see that being a number one city through a certain lens. Yeah. Through a certain lens, for sure. But anyway, our number one city right now is currently covered in orange haze because of the fires. There are forest fires, and smoke is just all around us.
Yep.
It's pretty gross.
We have our retro sun right now.
Yes.
It's a constant in the sky.
Orange, purple, sometimes
all sorts
pink.
Of cool colors.
Yeah, really cool colors.
Cool colors. It's just very sad.
Yep.
At the same time.
And the first time this happened, which was about a month ago, and it started raining ash, it was sort of like, wow, this is like, you get that little excitement of there's something going down. Well, it's kind of off and on been like that for a month now. And I'm not to the point where yesterday it was really clear. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can go outside and breathe. Haha.
Psych. You didn't get outside yesterday.
Yeah, I was woken up in the early morning, like 4 or something like that, by smoke, by the smell of smoke. I thought my house was on fire. No.
Did you have a window open?
No, it just was that bad. It came in through the fans even. So I had to turn all the fans in the house and buy an air purifier. That's where we're at, folks.
I already had 2.
Good call.
So.
Oh, nice.
2 air
for my tiny apartment.
Wow, I'm impressed.
Oh yeah.
You have 2.
Product
Two
guy,
for
what's
your
what's your brand?
Oh, I don't have the air purifier one. It's like $1,000, and I'm just like, never. It's not
Oh.
happening.
I could have told you that.
Oh wow.
So I just have like 2 from Amazon.
Yeah.
I could have told you the one that he wanted was fucking bougie.
Oh my goodness.
They were
It's
like,
just-
we made a little one.
Sir, it's just
like
it's just a
$600
fan with a freaking
for your
filter.
closet. I
Yeah.
know, right?
But it's
$1,000.
good air quality for training. Like, don't train in this. If you
No.
guys didn't get the memo, it's not really the same as hanging around by a campfire and stuff like that. It's this is full immersion.
Yeah, it's different because campfire tends when there's no wind, right? It tends to blow up, right? And all that heat pushes all of that ash and everything up. What we're getting is the opposite, where the ash is already pushed into the sky and is now coming down onto us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a campfire. If you're sitting right next to it, you're actually not getting a ton of smoke inhalation until you get that breeze, and then you're like, it's actually most of it's going up, right, and dispersing up there to somebody else's problem.
Yep.
Not yours. But
Right
this
now,
one's different.
if you were to stand outside, your eyes would just burn.
Yep.
It's really bad. So, sorry, I guess California had this for a while too.
Yeah.
And so now it's growing us.
I feel like pretty much half the U.S. right now has this.
Something going on. Video games?
Yeah. Speaking of dystopian futures and
Yeah. Most video
Cyberpunk,
games are pretty...
getting delayed and released. Was it next month now, right?
Next month.
Don't believe it. I don't believe it.
You don't?
Whoa,
They have to.
why?
They're in crunch time.
now, yeah.
The
Really?
yeah, CP Red is like they're on like 6 days a week right now,
Okay.
which they're actually getting some flack for. But I'm like, that's what happens when you are a salaried employee at a software company. They all they know that stuff happens. I'm not saying it's okay. But it's like, hey, do what you do, right? Got to get the game done. I mean, you already delayed twice.
So your Cyberpunk is going to be the best game.
No, I don't think it. I want it to be the best game.
Yeah. I know.
But it lacks multiplayer, which means that it's its long-term sustainability is not there.
Yeah.
Single player games, unless it's like The Witcher, which is also CP Red, has been a long-standing game, but there's no multiplayer, so the livelihood of it just ends up dying out earlier than a multiplayer game.
So it has to be multiplayer.
It has to be multiplayer
I think
in order to be to survive.
Wait, so
to be
it's not
longevity.
multiplayer? Cyberpunk 2077,
Not on launch.
which is a game that we've been inspired by and looked at, and sort of has the retro cyber genre as well. So it was supposed to be released how many years ago?
It was supposed to be April.
Yeah.
Of
Of this year.
always?
Yeah,
No.
they just announced it 4.5
This year?
years ago.
Always?
Always? I thought it was supposed to be out 2 years ago or something.
No, they had
No,
just
no.
announced it a very, very long time ago, and have just been in the works on it. But they delayed twice. April was their first one, and then they kicked it back a couple months, and they kicked it back again to November,
Okay.
which is great. I love November.
What game?
Having a birthday in November, all the AAA titles.
Yeah.
are
Oh,
always November release. Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, yeah, that's smart.
Consoles are always a November release. Phones are a November release. Video games, it's great. It's great to be born.
Most
in November.
expensive birthday presents for Jesse.
Oh, nice timing.
Okay, so what video games did you start with? I feel like that's going to determine
That is going to determine.
what your best video game of all time.
So we're trying to figure out what our best video games of what we think.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's
and
the best video game.
while I do lend a tremendous amount of respect to Pong and Breakout and Tetris,
Oh yeah.
I'm not counting those. If they're arcade games, I'm not going to count.
We're not
them as
saying
video
most
games.
most important necessarily.
Or we're not
You're
saying most influential.
Are we saying the one that you would play that's just your favorite? I think that says a lot about you. So I'll at least take that angle, and then you guys can be more objective. Or no.
Sure. Yeah, we can start with favorite.
So I would say favorite is I would say it's Halo, just because
CE.
The very first one?
3.
3. Okay. Everyone agrees that one was pretty.
Yeah, that one's pretty good. The first one definitely was very impactful, and we used to even play it where you just have to host in rooms.
Yep.
Like you didn't have
You had to do the manual connection.
the manual connection, right? Essentially like LAN party Halo, and I think that was really cool. But really 3 where you were just introduced to the world of playing with others and on console, and then also having already known something about the game coming into it through a couple of versions, and just the amount of chemistry and culture and friends that were made.
Culture.
Yeah, from
Great
that.
culture.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember saying it's aspirational.
Gamer culture.
Yeah,
It was especially
potent.
potent right when Xbox Live came out. Halo 2.
I can also remember standing in line for 3.
Yeah,
And,
I get too.
and I don't know. I mean, that really doesn't exist anymore,
No.
obviously. So that's sort of like a fun cultural thing.
Yeah.
I remember playing with multiple friends online at the same time on the same console,
Yeah.
like stuff like that. That is really fun, and just I think at the time of my life where I was spending a lot of time playing video games, that was a really good time.
Correct me on the timeline. Is that when you had cancer that you were playing a ton?
Wait, hold on, let me think. Was that a Halo and cancer?
Because I'm just saying, like right now,
I think that was post.
If
That was
if
post.
I had cancer, yeah, Carly I'd just be playing video games.
Yeah, you just play
Just,
video
like,
games
chemo-
nonstop.
chemo
No,
and games.
it was post.
It was post.
That would have
okay.
been post.
So you were like, wow, I almost died, and I could have spent more of my life doing this. So you decided to play more.
Yeah, I
video
think it's more like how can you rebound from that, get a second shot at things, and then waste your life playing.
games. I mean, honestly, if you'd stuck with it,
Yeah.
you could be
Ninja
Tyler
started
Blevins
on
right
Halo.
now. You know,
Oh.
netting. Yeah.
Oh, you mean stuck with video games, not with cancer?
Yeah. Yeah, don't stick with cancer. Never stick with cancer.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been a wasted life. If you enjoy your life, it's not a wasted
Not a
life.
wasted life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right?
No.
Don't let anybody else be like, oh, what? All you do is pluck your eyebrows? That's a wasted life. And if you love doing that, hey,
Well, if you have, a YouTube channel with millions of subscribers on
there you go.
eyebrows.
Yeah, dude. Everybody's got eyebrows. You could have the best YouTube
Most
eyebrow
people
channel.
have eyebrows.
Colin's like, I think. Most people have eyebrows, except for some people who are going through chemo and lose all their
Yeah, I lose all that. I actually didn't lose eyebrows. It was weird. Oh, maybe I did. I don't remember. I don't even have any pictures. It wasn't anything I was like trying to make a keepsake.
Yeah, no. You
So-
just-
I think that one of those things when we talk about like the happiness thing that comes from like wasting much time on video games, I think you want to a good exercise, and I posted this on Facebook the other day, is to imagine that you've already achieved what you think you're going to get out of the situation. So if you want 100 million subscribers on social for eyebrow plucking, you better just be sure that's what you want. Because that seems like a lot of work to get there and then be like, you know what, I don't know why I ever thought that was a good idea. But also, it's not that easy, so
It's, yeah.
you would have to like it along the way, it seems like. Yeah, so Halo.
3
3.
is your one.
I would say Halo
Is that
3.
favorite or best?
I
And we'll
think-
circle back
I
to
think that's
best. How
both.
about that?
I think that's both favorite and best, but I don't know if I would play it again. I actually still play Tekken every once in a while. I like Tekken, and specifically Tekken Tag was a big deal because that was a weird time where you'd pick up your console and you just go like challenge people. Like we used to carry around like a PlayStation in the trunk with a 4-player prong adapter, and then we just go to someone's house, and if they just started talking junk, you'd be like, all right, pop the trunk.
Bust it out.
And you pulled out, and then you
That's
just
funny.
like challenge people on the spot, which was kind of cool that you could like. There's something interesting about being able to carry that around and just like
Yeah.
What is that
He's
gesture?
making the Yu-Gi-Oh.
the Yu-Gi-Oh.
Although the OG Yu-Gi-Oh had the big old stadium things, right? And
Yeah.
What was his name? Maximilian Pegasus.
Pegasus, yeah.
Mm.
And he had his little arena and his tournament, and then and then they had
What
the
was that
Blade
called?
thing. I don't know.
Oh, that was a good
I
pick.
grab my copy,
Yeah, I think once Halo 2 came out and Xbox Live came out and you could play with people from different houses, that was a huge thing.
But the problem with Halo 2 was they just screwed it up. Like the actual gameplay was not.
Halo 2? I thought it was fine.
No. That's the first time you could dual wield, right? And everybody
Yeah.
had like a stick.
Yeah,
like
the
a
cover,
narrow
Jack
stick.
the cover is
Told
even
you.
the.
All right. Anyway, sorry. So 3, they kind of were like, 2, they were like, yay, oh, really good. 3, they're like, okay, we fixed this stuff. That
Yeah, well, I think they were all good, but I think Halo 2 was when that Xbox Live happened, and that was something else. I remember waiting in line at midnight for Halo 2, dragging our mom there. We were like the only ones. Like everyone else was an adult. So we were just, yeah. But she worked for the company that made the hard drives for Xbox, so she'd probably be like market research.
Yeah, but it was cool because I remember I think getting in line for 2 or 3. I can't remember which one it was because I was in line for both. And something that also was sort of different that we don't experience anymore, and if anybody remembers this, I don't know if they're of a certain age or just of a certain region, it's just we used to have Tilt, which was a franchise of video game arcades. So the GameStop, I think, or whatever was there, they were literally right next to each other. So you were sort of waiting in line for the game outside of an arcade. I don't know if like the arcade was like kind of looking there, just like kind of like little teardrops, little tear coming.
People used to wait for us.
Yes, exactly. So I didn't even consider arcade games, which I do remember playing, like even like Ninja Turtles or Tekken or what other, like there are cool arcade games out there too. But that's a different experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we were just past that like arcade window where like we played some arcade games. But
you had to have the franchise.
Like, what's this quarter thing? This is ridiculous.
Well, you had to have the franchise actually be open in your town. So I think a lot of older towns were able to keep their where the rent's cheaper, maybe were able to keep their arcades longer, or the franchises longer, because you guys were certainly like you were certainly around.
It was a big deal when we got a McDonald's.
Oh, okay. That's right. And I know that McDonald's.
Yeah, still around.
I know exactly.
Yeah, and that still didn't happen until we were in our teens, I feel like.
Yeah. So I think my favorite though is Dark Souls.
Dark Souls? Ooh. So what's Dark Souls? Because I think that's kind of like niche.
Dark Souls 1?
I don't think everybody knows what that is.
Oh, I think Dark Souls 1. So Dark Souls is like a I'm wearing a shirt with the knights on there.
Yes.
It's a little, what is that? RPG? Yeah. Where you pick a character and you just pick a sword and you run around and you beat a bunch of people up. But the concept,
people.
It's monsters.
Everything in between.
Yeah. But the concept where you if you die, you have to go back and do your whole checkpoint over again, and the process of having to like repeat over and over and over again the mistakes that you made until you get them right.
But this was the sort of video game that mimics, what's the Tom Cruise movie?
Yes, Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow?
Yes.
Yeah, where it's the exact same.
Mimics Dark Souls.
Mimics Dark Souls.
For
because
sure.
it is the exact same thing, right? Like it's not like the AI behaves differently or something like that. You're always you can always expect to see the same thing again, but you always have to go back and do it.
Yeah, and the more times you die, the better you get at it eventually. Yeah. So, and that was I love watching that movie because it helped me.
I want to watch that one again.
It helped me explain why I like that video game so
much.
much.
And I think it is a really cool idea, and I'm really surprised that there isn't more of it, because that is an interesting way to play a game. Is it?
Yeah.
It very much has like a cult following of people who have played it, and some people pick it up and they're like, "Oh my gosh, there's no tutorial. The story is so complex and nobody is there to explain it to me. There's no hand-holding in the game at all," which is very cool. And it's just like, go. And then you have to, through trial and error, kind of figure out the game. So I think that's pretty cool. And there's definitely like certain people click with it and they're like, "Oh, this is I love this." And other people are like, "I want to play video games to be relaxed, not to have to like put all of myself into it." I mean, Dark Souls is like sweaty pits, dilated eyes.
Oh wow! You're stressing.
Hesitation the whole way through. So, and I also like Dark Souls because it is a very good parallel to like how you learn parkour. Like you drop into the game and you have no idea what you're doing, but you see footmarks on the wall, and so you assume you're supposed to run up that side of the wall. And there's no one there to teach you, but and in Dark Souls, they like other players leave hints around the world to help you out, and that's like very parkour. You don't really learn parkour on your own to get to a max level unless you're around other people and you're taking hints and strategies from them. And then there's also that perseverance aspect too, where it's like you just fail so many times in parkour that you
get used to it.
If you're training on your own, you fail so many times in a row, and eventually you get it. So you just get really good at failing in parkour and in video games too. So
I like that. I also like that it's kind of a bit solo. But in a way that is obviously still you can do it. You can play it on your own. I mean, what you guys are complaining about with not multiplayer on Cyberpunk pending is that
Not at launch.
not at launch.
Yeah, don't bash them yet. It's just not at launch. They're
Okay,
planning on
not
adding
at
it out.
launch. And you think later on they'll be integrated?
No, they said they will.
Okay.
But it's that's money, time and money on that one.
Yeah.
If you don't
that's
launch
true.
with multiplayer, you've got about a 3-month window to get it patched in.
To get it patched in. Okay. But also, I think that it could turn into something that represents is AI good enough now that, is it just something about knowing that there's a person on the other side of the, shenanigans you're up to? Is it just
No, it's
something
about
about that? Or
trust
about
me.
voice? Well, I mute on all my multiplayer except for my.
No, when you're with me.
Oh, yeah.
You two
So you're
having
saying
a
so
shared
think,
experience.
you think going in and going through a journey with
Oh.
friends is what?
Oh, it's
And
so much harder for me to enjoy a video game if I'm not on chat. I
Really?
think that's
I do think that like the industries of like streaming, like Twitch makes single player games have an element to them that we've never had before, right? We've all played video games where like it was a single player game, and so you'd all like sit on the couch and watch your friend go, and then when they die, you kind of swap out, right?
Mhm.
Like we've all had that experience, and now Twitch gives kind of a new element where you can have a social chat aspect to a single player game, and that's super cool. And I feel like we haven't seen the end of what that'll do for the video game industry, even though it's done so much already. I think that's going to be cool. But it's shared experiences that make video games what they are. Even when I look back fondly on like single player games, and I'm like, oh, that was so much fun. The memory is not as like resonant as when I think back of playing a multiplayer game and something the same caliber of silliness happened, right? When I have other people in the chat room or other people at my house and we're all playing together. So I think that matters if a game wants to be, if it wants to stand the test of time.
So if people don't know what Twitch is, I know that that's possibly a thing. Yep.
Twitch is an online platform where
If you don't
can
know,
stream.
you're now being laughed at.
I guess if like our grandparents are tuning in, then that makes sense. They wouldn't know what Twitch is. But anyways, it's where you're streaming what you're doing on your screen online, and anybody can log into that link, or they can go to that website and they can see what you're seeing on your screen as you play your game, and they can chat with you and all that stuff. And of course, you get full control. It's not like they can just access your camera and like it's like you opt into that. So.
Yeah. And so this is a big deal because it's creating sort of a world of esports that is shared at the like socials. Maybe not the best word. I feel like there's a better word for it. But in the past, like esports was go to a conference and sit down and watch someone play on a bigger screen, which completely changes the dimension that they're used to playing. Or they share screens. They've been doing this for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Nintendo or whomever
like
started.
80s?
Yeah. Probably.
80s was the first
80s,
one, right?
90s? I don't know.
For the Nintendo World Championship.
That's what I
that was
miss.
in the 80s.
I miss those things. Those things look so
Those were
fun.
Or like
I
where
remember
you
going
go,
to those for Pokemon
yeah,
and winning
those are so
Pokemon
nice.
cards. Or Jesse got like some like fancy Pokemon in his Game Boy for answering a question, right? But
Yeah.
we didn't.
Very
I
like
don't
put
feel
on
we have those
experience.
anymore.
Yeah, the
Well,
experience.
we don't have them now. This year. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
this year.
Even if they were around, we wouldn't have them this year. But
That's
I never
great.
answered. But I think my favorite is gonna be Elder Scrolls 4
Yeah.
Oblivion.
I don't even know what Elder Scrolls is.
It's
Yeah,
Skyrim.
you'll
It's
get
a
there.
it's a game. It's the Skyrim
It's a
series.
series.
Yeah.
Skyrim is the latest installment.
Okay.
But I think where like Morrowind was like fun, but it was kind of clunky. Oblivion was the first one where you're like dropped into a world and you're just like, it's all open. I just get to explore,
Yeah.
and I
that was
can
pretty
attack
cool.
this guy, and then all the guards will crush me in the city. Or I can try and steal from this guy, and now I have a bounty, and the guards like they will chase you across the map.
It was
And like you just like you leave the city and you're like in another city doing quests, and a guard from like freaking from like Sovngarde
For,
or
like,
whatever is like
2 hours
over there.
ago.
Yeah, and he comes up
Yeah.
and you're just like you get done chatting with an NPC in a quest, and then you like get interrupted and you turn and he's like, "Stop! You're a criminal. Pay your fines." And you're like, and you like see his uniform and you're like, "Oh my God, you're not even from this area."
Is
You
it
chase
you
me
outside your jurisdiction, sir? Come
Yeah.
on, bro.
Yeah.
And then, of course, even then, in that interaction, you could pay your fine if you had the money and wanted to. If you didn't have the money, you could fight him and try and run away, and then increase the bounty, or he kills you, one of the two. And
Wow.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's Justin dusting off his running the guard shoes.
From literally 2 inches away from the microphone. What compels you, sir?
I need my own microphone.
You do. And it needs to come from down here.
Yeah.
So that you
And then
can't.
when I try to like touch it, it like just moves away.
Moves away.
Colin's got it on a remote. He's like,
Yes.
So with that series, where would somebody get started if they're like, I mean, the Halos, I might go back and play Halo 3 now. I kind of just wait for the next Halo. I'm not
No.
yeah, no,
We
just
just play it together. If you did it with other people, you could play these older games. I feel like
That's the big thing is like even if you're not a video game person, you're gonna jump in and you're gonna immediately recognize how dated it is.
Mhm.
And that can steal some of the joy from it if you're not like a
kind of had to be
vintage.
there thing. There's a had to be there element.
But if
to
you have other
favorite game.
people to share that experience with, it can be fun. If you wanted to jump in and try Elder Scrolls, Skyrim is still live and popular and has millions of mods, which vanilla Skyrim is great. But if you want to get really crazy, you can have flying unicorns. You could ride a unicorn. You can cast new spells. You can get cool new outfits. You can turn all the bears into like kittens. You can mod. the
How
heck
hard
out of it.
is that? How hard is Skyrim?
Super easy if you're on PC. If you're on console, a little tricky.
Mm.
Still, it's not too bad.
That's a lot of fantasy. Like I hear that much work. It sounds like work to me.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I hear it and I'm like,
No, me
whoa! I could build I'm trying to build this world.
It's
And I have to
so-
build that
so
world
if-
too. It's not even real.
If you're on PC,
Yeah.
you can literally just go to the game and it has like store, it has like DLC, and then it has what's called Workshop. This is in Steam, which is the platform that you buy it off of.
Mm.
And you hit Workshop, and then it's just hundreds, maybe close to 1,000 now, of just like mods, and you just like add, and then you load the game, and they all get loaded into the game. Whereas before you had to do you had to do a third-party launcher, and you had to move those files over. It was quite the thing. Now it's literally you're just like yeah, I want all the bears to be kittens. It's super easy.
So that's very interesting.
But yeah, with series like that, just jump right into the latest one. Oblivion is hilarious to jump into now because people are just so ugly.
Yeah.
Even Skyrim's like kind of ugly
Yep.
unless you have a really, really awesome PC and the time to dig through mods. But yeah.
So you were talking about building a world. Can we switch topics and talk about the new gym? Any updates?
We should. We actually are so behind on stuff,
I know.
and I feel like we need. So Justin got married. There's
Yep.
that. Maybe we'll
Yeah,
say
5
yeah.
days ago, right?
5 days ago. Has it been that long? You're just celebrating your 5-day anniversary.
Oh, 4 days.
4 days.
Your 4-day anniversary. Boy, time flies. It already feels like 5 days. It's only been 4.
Wow, so it's 25% faster. Huh? That's what it feels like.
I don't want life to
Or
go faster.
longer. 25%
Oh,
longer.
well, yeah, that's going to be tough, sir. With age and marriage, life definitely goes faster.
But anyways, yeah, Justin's now married. He's got
Yep.
a ring. He's got a ring on his hand.
One ring.
Oh, I'm not ringing today.
Which was a great time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was much more fun than I thought it was going to be because there's so much stress going into that day.
I
so.
could have told you that.
So okay, so yeah, there was a wedding. Is there anything else?
yeah,
That was a huge event for me. But
yeah. The wedding was huge. There was some dancing. You got attacked by all parties for a dance battle.
Yes.
Justin
Whose
had-
idea was that? The dance
That
battle?
was Izzy's.
Izzy's?
I
Yeah.
feel like that was the dance battle was Izzy's, but the hot dog.
The
costume
hot
was-
dog.
Oh yeah.
Or no, that was Jordan. That was Jordan.
Was
Of
that
course it was
Jordan or was that
Jordan.
Angus?
Who
Yeah,
had
there were
it?
a couple
I'm
of
It was in Molly's car.
Oh,
So-
of
a couple
course.
of Justin's buddies. Well, for the bachelor party, we didn't talk about, but we abducted Justin and then took him from place to place.
He went on quests.
He went on quests.
You went
We
on
took him to
quests.
commemorative
Like in
places, each of our homes, and then had a challenge against each one of us. And in one of those, for every place he would transition, he would have to wear a different costume. So in one of those, he had to put on a hot dog costume. Another one, you made it a pretty decent subreddit impact for Batman on a ruckus.
A very terrible Batman costume.
Very
It was
intentionally
My
terrible.
back
He
was
was
like bare.
Bear-
My
It
cape
was
was
a
tied up into
sultry
a
Batman
knot.
costume.
Bareback Batman got, on a ruckus driving around town. Got on the Fort Collins subreddit for sure. But anyway, so there were lots of entertaining shenanigans, and the food was good, and everybody's healthy, so it was a great wedding. It was a good one.
That was pretty fun.
Yeah. And then with the gym stuff, we'll probably have some more updates next week, but there's fill dirt in there. I think they're getting ready to erect the steel around the outside of the building, which is closer, so that's really cool.
Yes, yeah, the walls, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they're skeleton.
They're finishing up plumbing now, so they're crossing the bend right there, and then they got to go all the way down to the end of our unit to finish the plumbing, and then they'll do walls and then foundation.
And
foundation then walls.
We have some of the design phases progressing, and I think we're pretty close to a pretty good rendering of what the gym will look like on the inside as we make our final finished decisions.
How our foam pit now currently has a couple of platforms up high for jumping into the pit. We have a pretty good concept of what of whatever we're replacing the pit with. We have a pretty good idea of what that concept looks like, and then we have a few of our on the ground obstacles conceptualized too. Mm-hmm. So this part's I feel like the hardest part. It's super cool watching these come to life, but it's
stressful.
Yeah, because it just looks
it's
so
just
foreign. You're trying to decide, what things are going to look like only on the computer. We're not walking through the gym at all and placing boxes, and so it is purely virtual.
There's no model home to walk through and be like, I really like this, but I want this wall to be here, or I want, these sorts of fixtures, or I like where they put the mirror in that bathroom. Like, everything has to be done, in your head. Yeah. And then you can put it on the computer. But even, to get a 3D rendering of it takes half an hour to an hour, right? And then you're like, I didn't like it. Yeah. So there goes an hour of your time to now you have to try something else. So, fortunately, we have really awesome people working on those things, but still, that takes then their time and then we.
Yeah, and I think that, it is just so tough because you want to get in space, but
turn the fans on.
But we have we have potentially the VR rendering from the builder.
Yeah.
Once we have, I don't know if they pull that through. So we use SketchUp, which gives us 3D modeling of the space, and that allows us, when we get a little tighter on our stuff, we'll be able to share what those elements look like.
We'll be able to give kind of people a sneak peek of what it'll look like.
Yeah, and then the other thing that we're working on is the materials and the interior design aesthetic feel, right?
Yes.
That part, I didn't think we were going to have such a thorough decision-making process on that, so that's very cool to be looking at the carpet that we're going to have. I don't know how I'm excited about carpet, but very excited about the carpet in the studio room.
There are things there are things that as a homeowner that you'll get excited about too.
Yeah.
I'm excited about things like putting insulation in my garage because it'll save me $5 a month in heating or cooling costs just having an insulated garage. Those sorts of things excite me.
You should have used the foam pit for your
insulation. So we recently pulled out the foam pit, the existing foam pit. We pulled it out and threw all of the foam in a dumpster. I don't think that's the same material for insulation.
I don't think so either.
No, it's fiberglass is insulation. Well, if you're using standard fiberglass.
Yeah.
Or you could do the foam stuff, which everybody says works better, but I don't want to do it with spray foam.
So if you're trying to build your own gym or do these sort of things, you really have to develop a broad competence around all of these different elements that come into building property or to building anything. So that's something that we didn't know that we were going to be interested or get into when we started building a gym, that was going to be such a big part of just operations. But luckily we have an interest in design and construction and engineering as just what we also like. If that was not the case, I think we'd be in a lot of trouble with trying to do that.
Yeah, if it wasn't something we were already
I don't
that's
think
the thing I'm interested in anyway.
People should realize too that when they see our project, our artful hands and intention are so in it that there probably isn't an element that we couldn't talk to, right? Mm-hmm. Everything down to from mirrors in the bathroom have been a discussion all the way to surfaces. We're running tests.
Color of the toilet.
Toilet color. That was actually really simple. We were just black.
Black. But yeah, well, yeah, you have to know that black toilets exist. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know they existed before a year ago.
Is that like so much of this stuff is just having to know that it's something that you can choose.
That it's a possibility,
right? And that's what's so difficult, is because then I feel like I have to do a part-time job of researching these things, but I don't even know where to start. Like, and I did Google search black toilets, which is now in our work shared history. Is black toilets are now in there.
Yeah.
So if you guys look up on our suite account and all the history from everybody's profile, black toilets, and
you're just getting hit
I spent
up
like
on
half an
Facebook
hour
by the black
looking
toilet
up
company.
like different shapes of black toilets and all sorts of stuff, and so those are things I didn't even know that you could swap out, and then we asked about it, and they were like,
yep. So this is the value of a design language, and if you don't know what a design language is, listeners, a design language is essentially patterns and themes in design, and those can be in any elements, right, or environments. So you could be talking about the design language of a website, the design language of a brand, the design language of a building. If there are multiple buildings within a company, they might have a design language for each project, or an overarching design language. And when you have those things, that makes these decisions easier, because a good example is we were recently sent an email, and this is just a quiz. This is where like detailed project and product management comes in, but also creative direction. You get a list. This is what winning looks like with design language. A list of options, 5 questions, and each question has 4 potential options. And this could be like a sink, or a handrail, or a front desk, or a tile, or whatever. And then being able to have everyone in the organization who's making those relative decisions make the same decision is how consistent your design language is. So we recently got an email, and it was like, select from column A, B, C, or was there 4 options?
It was like option 1. Yeah, there's several options for each.
And then for each one, and we both looked at it, Justin and I, and then replied at separate times, which is bad communication, but it was good communication, because we all picked the exact same thing. That's just particular taste, that's a consistent design language. And if you know this design language, you can communicate them. You can get contractors and developers to convey more of what the message is of your brand. Some people think that a brand is just a fancy logo, and we have a fancy logo. It's a very good logo,
but there's
more to it.
Thousands of more adjectives to your brand.
Yes, adjectives are very good vernacular for that, because you can go in that rabbit hole, and you could still pick something really cool, like toilets, right? Let's say you pick you're going on the list of black toilets, but if black isn't even in your motif, let's say you have a very bright and colorful brand that uses a lot of white, and just dark colors don't typically exist. It's very pastel and white. You could pick an awesome black toilet, but if you put it in the gym that doesn't have that as part of their motif, it's going to be a faux pas.
It's jarring, yeah.
Right. It's very jarring, and it doesn't feel consistent. Something feels off. It's subconscious often. So just a little segue there on like why that matters.
That's why interior design is an industry.
Yes, that is why it matters, and why like people's projects look half-baked half the time. So, and getting it right is actually hard.
It is.
Did we mention the groundbreaking at all?
Yeah.
On the podcast?
We talked about it a couple times.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, it's been a while. I feel like I've been gone from this gym for like 2 weeks.
Yeah. Welcome back.
On to the next.
Let's talk about warm-ups.
Warm-ups,
Yep.
which is happening at the end, and I feel like we're already well warmed up for this conversation.
Exactly.
Well, you're talking about the building, and it's getting warmed up.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make something up.
It works. I'm down. The transition's good. So, warm-ups is a training topic. This seems like a subtle topic, but I think I'm going to lead in with some really jarring, she used the word jarring. I'm going to lean into some jarring statements and claims. And that is,
Bosu ball?
yeah, this is on the level of Bosu ball potentially. Right. And I'm going to come out and say that I think that warm-ups, as practiced probably by 90% of people who do training, like fitness training, maybe even 95, is not needed and is maybe even detrimental to their training. I'm going to leave traditional sports out of this because I think that they may not have this issue as much. But I'm going to say that I don't think warm-up as we know it is needed. I actually prefer the word primer, which...
hey, that was a word I was going to use.
Is that a word you're going to use? Hey, design language.
Right.
Right? Program design language. Yeah, we should get pretty consistent answers. I think it may be articulated differently, but they should be pretty consistent amongst us on this.
Yeah.
Meaning, essentially, the old school way of thinking about a warm-up, or not old school, the divergent and flawed way of thinking of a warm-up is that, let me give you an example. So if I was doing a CrossFit workout, these are super common to see these programmed in, right? So let's say your workout or whatever you're going to be doing is going to be working on some weightlifting and maybe calisthenic strength on the bar. So your warm-up is 400-meter run. That's a warm-up as it's practice. Now, if we really understood preparation for training better, we might not need it to beat up warm-ups and stop using that word for a while and use something different if that was what was happening, but it's not. Why is doing a 400-meter run before you why is that even needed before you would do calisthenics or before you would do weightlifting?
It's not. I think most people have this misconception that warm-up, they take the term warm-up too literally, and they're like, oh, you got to feel warm before you're actually ready for these activities, right? And so they're like, what gets you more warm than just like a stupid run, 400 meters? Because, CrossFitters, like, they don't want to run like a 1,600, a mile. And I don't either, ever. So they're like, 400-meter run. That's perfect. It's like long enough that you kind of get your own pace and your heart rate increases. And you just warm up everything. And you're warm. Mm-hmm. That's how it goes, right? But I think it's not. It is wrong, but it's not like that's the wrong thing. Skip it. But it's just not the most efficient choice.
Yeah, it's not the best choice.
It does help, but it's not.
Yeah, maybe that one's less of a terrible thing to do. The 400-meter run. I've seen some worse.
It's just not going to improve the performance of the thing you're going to do right after, which is cycling.
Which is the goal of the warm up, right?
Yeah,
like your
I think most people think that. Yeah, if they do their warm up, the skills they'll practice after the warm up will be performed at a peak better,
or close to the peak
because of the warm up. So
yeah. So the term that I like that I've heard, and I'm not sure if that came from Poliquin or if it came from some other folks, but just the term of primer, basically meaning a modified or a less intense version of what you're about to do.
Yep.
That's what I prefer as what should be done before you start training more intensively. Is train less intensively in as close to the modalities you're about to train as possible.
Yep.
And so when you have these...
And with reduced impact.
And with,
right?
yeah.
That's usually how
pretty much reduced everything, right? Reduced impact, reduced load, almost reduced zero. Intensity.
Yeah, you're right. And so I think that's one of the bigger things that people forget is that just because you can do doubles doesn't mean a single is the right scaled down version that you should be doing beforehand.
Yeah.
Oh, I deadlift 500 pounds, so a 400-pound deadlift should be fine.
Yeah. In my opinion, it does. Yeah. Load and impact have to be. Yeah, should be able to wake up and do it right away.
So the other thing that I see people doing is let's talk about that heat. Heat does matter. So in warm up, I would just say wear more clothes. I mean, if you show up if the temperature is colder and you show up with your booty shorts on, right, and then you're not hot in that way. I think that the other thing I want to point out in warm ups is that
booty shorts are very hot.
They make other people hot.
Right, exactly.
You're warming up everybody else.
Make sure you're warming up yourself and not everybody else. TikTok trainers. Okay. So I think that's really important. I see that a lot from b-boys and boxers and folks like who wear a lot of hot clothing coming into training. And I think that's, when you're going to get ready to do something that is the actualization of higher intensity. Let's say you're going to go do some challenges or whatnot. Getting hot by just using more clothing is a good way, because there is something to be said about getting tissue warm. Mm-hmm. That type of warm up, when people say warm up, is usually not considered. I don't know how many warm-ups I've seen. Specifically, CrossFit is a felon of this, where you've got people out in sports bras and booty shorts, and the weather is snowing and they just have a beanie on, and like they're like, oh, I did this, and then I tried some plyometrics and my joints hurt. And you're like, oh, gee, wonder why? Well, I did my warm-up. Like, yeah, but you did it in the snow. And I'm not talking about snow-inducing heat. There could be some
blood flow,
increased blood flow. There could be some voodoo there that you could whirl.
Yeah, cold therapy is that's a separate podcast that we'll talk about.
Yeah,
and I know a perfect guy to bring on for that one.
Oh yes, exactly.
But I think warm up has two real main purposes, right? And the one that we often think is the primary one is it's about increasing blood flow. But the misconception is that we're increasing blood flow everywhere by increasing our heart rate, right? You can do a warm up and not have your heart rate increase. In fact, if you're doing something where your heart rate isn't going to increase when you perform, which maybe curling, pick a sport, right? Pick something. Then you don't really need to increase your heart rate together. 9 times out of 10, though, most athletic things are going to have an increased heart rate. So you want a little bit of that, but they confuse that like, oh, I need to increase blood flow just everywhere. And that's why we do the run, right? But really we want to increase blood flow in the areas that we're going to use, right? So if I'm going to do weighted pull-ups, I don't need to warm up my ankles, right? Maybe I do a little bit of hop in, whatever. But
in isolation, it doesn't make any sense.
But for the most part, I should really just make sure I get increased blood flow into my shoulders to warm them up. Muscle tissue already has a lot of blood flow, so you don't really need to focus on it. It's blood flow to the soft tissue areas that we're going to get to, right? I want to make sure that, my ligaments and the joint capsule and all of that stuff is getting blood flow, and wearing extra clothes absolutely will help maintain that. Because it's already, those soft tissues are already very avascular, right? So they're not getting a lot of blood flow. Muscle tissue gets tons of blood flow. You don't have to worry about that.
There's also something neurological in a warm-up that I think is different. Like, has anyone ever had like a lazy warm-up where they spend a half an hour warming up, meaning doing, isolated movements, or perhaps what they feel like should be in a warm-up, but you still half an hour in don't feel engaged?
Well, and so that's the second thing, the thing that good trainers know and good athletes know, and that it's the second priority, and maybe even the most prioritized thing is priming the nervous system, right, for the activity that you're going to do. If you're going to lift, your CNS needs to know we are going to lift heavy things. If you're going to run and sprint, your CNS needs to know we are going to be doing long activity or we're going to do higher intensity for a longer period of time, or low intensity for a really long period of time, right? You need to prime the CNS for that. And that's where doing like-minded movements or modalities as to what you're going to perform matters, right? If I'm going to do heavy back squat, I need to be doing air squats and lower lightweight, because my CNS is like, oh, this is what we're going to do. Got it. I'm ready now. I'm getting there. I'm warmed up. I know which muscle groups to fire and which sequences. I know where to get the blood to when I need it. My head's in the right space. Absolutely. And that one I think is uncommonly just ignored. People are just like, if I just put on loud music and I just punch you in the gut, you'll be ready to deadlift things. And you're like, well, maybe the gut part for stabilizing the midline, but like,
let's see the punching in.
Just because you're angry doesn't mean you're necessarily going to perform better, right?
Emotional content, not anger. So I'm going to give my favorite warm-up right now, which is a fall or winter warm-up, because I feel like I don't need to place as much. It's seasonal to some degree, right? Yeah. In summer, you're hot.
Your warm-up should absolutely change with the weather.
I don't need to wear a ton of clothes and do whatever. So I think, my warm-up hacks, the bare minimum one is I like to do leg and arm swings, which some of that stuff comes from martial arts. But if I'm training and I'm getting ready to do something, if it's parkour, dance, if it's martial arts, I like leg and arm swinging. And I think, I'm not going to say people do it wrong, but oftentimes I see people just flailing their arms around. But really, one of my intentions in that training, and from what I've learned from my teachers, is to try and draw blood to the extremity. So if you're doing just like an arm swing where the arm is swinging down in front of you and behind, and you're trying to relax and bring the tension out, I'm also trying to pull blood into my hands and wrists. Same thing with the leg swings. I'll see people do kicks, and they're like, oh, I'm warming up my like hip flexors and my glutes. I'm like, yeah, you are to that's part of it, but you can get extra if you concentrate on pulling the blood down to your ankle. And that's one of the ones that happens to me a lot when I'm training outside in parkour and it's colder weather, fall weather. I'll jump on something and then instantly just get that like electrical shock feedbacky feeling on a drop in the cold. You know that one?
Worst.
Oh, I hate it. And it doesn't. Sometimes it'll be like 18 inches, and I'm like ah. So one of the things I can do
18 inches is pretty big.
What?
18-inch drop?
Yeah, just jumping off a little like ledge or something.
Oh, I'm thinking about hanging. Do you get it when you hang? I always get it when I'm hanging, like from a bar, and it drops straight down to my feet.
Onto your toes?
Yes, onto my toes.
Oh, yes. Okay.
That's why I almost can't avoid that if I get on a bar.
Really?
And
okay.
From what is that? It's 8 feet from me.
Sounds
That's
like
9
you should
feet.
do some like bouncing before you
You can do the the leg swings first, because and really you have to relax the leg and pull the blood to the ankle. If you can't blood bend, then you can look that up online. If you don't know how to blood bend, but I'm saying blood bend a little bit to get why, because it gets blood around my ankle and into my feet, and that's usually what happens through the process of training anyway. But when you're extra cold, it's harder. And then the other thing I like to do is actually things like shadow boxing or top rock next.
Yeah.
Because that can get my heart rate up. I actually find that it's difficult for me if I'm going to do work on strides or jumps or something like that. That's a power movement. It's difficult for me to get my heart rate up in a way that gets the CNS firing, central nervous system firing, as I get ready for jumps or strides. Like that'll happen, but if I just do the jumps and do light jumps, then sometimes I can do 5 or 10 and then feel like I'm humming and I don't have the tinglies and I'm ready to go. But actually there's a great risk that I just tweak something while I'm doing that sort of primer, right? So I do like to get the blood flow going where it needs to be, and then also to get the, like Jesse's saying, little hops to get the nervous system and stuff cued in to what I'm about to do. And even though I'm doing parkour maybe in my training session, I feel like a little bit of top rock where it's a lot of rebounding and rocking. And if you don't understand that, maybe even light jump rope could be a thing too, or just kind of hopping and bounding around a little bit is enough to start to fire that way.
I think top rock from B-boy it's just so fun, and it's a skill in itself. So it's very easy to forget that you're warming up when you're doing top rock and dance. But there's so much focus on every single joint that you have. Everything's got to be in position, especially if you're doing it in front of a mirror. There's like just so much more focus on every little muscle. And then it's fun, and you're developing style. Like top rock is so like broad in what it improves on yourself. So yeah, I think everyone needs to learn that for warm up. And you're swinging your arms. I've
actually lost arms coordination. There's reciprocation in there.
Yeah.
Timing, and if you have music, it's could be getting you in the zone too.
Yep.
I actually want to point out that you said it's super easy to forget that you're doing it.
Yeah.
I actually have to intentionally set
Stop.
a time limit on mine now, because I've lost multiple sessions to top rock.
Yeah.
Like I'll go in, I'm like, I don't feel like doing anything today. I'll start top rock and I'll get music.
You're just vibing.
Yeah, I'm feeling it. And then 40 minutes will go by, I'll miss my entire string session. And I just end up top rocking for 45 minutes. So now I'm conscious of that. I'm like, okay, just a little bit of top rock. And then we'll get into the boring stuff, which is pushing your leg.
Yeah, sometimes I'll be doing like a cluster set, right? And so that's where you're doing 90% of your 1 rep max on a lift, and you hit it 1 rep, and then you wait 15 to 20 seconds, and then you hit the next rep, right, for 3 to 5 reps, and then you have 3 minutes in between your next set. 3 to 5 minutes. It's a huge rest in between. And sometimes I'm sitting just at home, on my bench, just and then I'm like, I got, some hip hop music playing already because I'm working out. And so then I started doing a little top rock, and dude, half the time I'm like, oh crap, what am I at time wise? I'm like, dang it, that was a 7-minute rest. I wasn't really resting.
It wasn't really resting. It is.
So I too have to be okay, if I'm gonna do top rock, I have to be really intentional about it, so that I don't just get in the zone and just goof off and have fun and forget what I was there for.
There's nothing wrong with that too. You're just not gonna. I mean, to be honest, that's a lot of people would love to just feel that.
Yeah,
so.
It's true. It saddens me that
distraction.
Most people don't already feel that about movement. That it's like playing video games for me. When I get in and I'm training and I'm in the zone, it's very much like video games where I'm goofing off, and then I'm like, oh wow, 5 hours. I should probably eat at some point today.
I think that people judge themselves and they feel like what they're doing is they have an obligation to do something. There's some sort of deficit that they have, and they're pursuing that. Now, maybe if you are getting like, if you have a job or a competition, then yeah, your physical, you need to do that work. But I think I actually take a little bit of pride in missing most of my intended programming by just doing movement.
By enjoying it.
Right. I'm like, isn't that not the goal? But it's bad for me right now. Like, I think I'm missing like 40%. I won't say 50, but nearly half my program sessions.
So then that's a perfect segue, because I wanted to ask you guys, do you have any tips? Because I know that a lot of people aren't in the same industry we are, right? So like any time spent working out and moving is it fits what we do, right? It fits the industry that we work on. It could arguably be said that I was still working. And a lot of people don't have that, and that's cool. They do other cool stuff. So they have to be more intentional about their workout and training sessions. And I feel like warm-up is one of the biggest ways that people waste time. And they're like, I can't make it to the gym because I have to do 2 hours. Because I have to spend 30 minutes doing a warm-up and 30 minutes doing a cool-down and then an hour actually working out. And I'm like, look, if you work a full-time job, you got kids, you got a spouse, you got other things to do. You don't have 2 hours to waste at the gym. You got to get in and warm up, get your stuff done, go home, right? So do you guys have any tips? I know Justin loves long warm-ups. Do you guys have any tips, though, that are like, here's how you can abbreviate your warm-up, get in, get done, and get to the stuff that you want?
Justin's dating profile would be loves long warm-ups on rooftops. Well, you don't get that anymore. You're married.
No.
That was just there for humor.
I missed the Tinder.
I did too. Oh yeah.
Yeah, we were all well and truly soulmated up.
I would have been terrible at it anyways. So.
Yeah, what was your profile? The one with the mat on your head?
I had a dinner. Dinner mat?
Placemat?
Yeah, placemats.
Yeah.
Like the children over his head, and he was just like looking off. Like,
And
I
then
took it on a trip we had to Arizona.
I think I had braces in that too. So
Classic.
that was the only time I had Twitter or Tinder.
Yeah, it was like,
so for warm-ups, I think warm-up is a skill. So don't treat it as some mindless like heart pump. Like you should be getting better at the things that is in your warm-up every time you do your warm-up, right? It should be directly related to what you're doing or the skill that you want to improve. And that's something that I feel like everyone expects a warm-up to be the pre, the intro to your skill.
Prologue.
But I'm always like, it's like my main meat of my practice. So it's not really a warm-up. It's skills that I'm working on at very low impact. So that's how I would approach it. But I know that's kind of unique. I think I like my warm-up, and sometimes I can just do just the warm-up, and really it turns into just my skill practice for the day. I'm not really looking for my warm-up or my skill practice to improve corks or broad jumps or anything like that. So that's how I do it. That's how I get it done fast.
So be super intentional.
Yes, and it's 15 minutes of skill practice, and sometimes that is just single leg balance, and I'm working through like a swing through on there, or if it's like broad jump, I'm just going through like 99% of the broad jump. I'll do the whole thing, but then I'll stop before I jump, and I'll only go up an inch in the air. So I'm practicing the path that my arms take and loading my knees and my hips, and I'll do that at varying speeds. I'll do that at like 99% like effort, and then I'll only broad jump 2 inches in the air just to practice everything except the air awareness,
except the actual intensity. And so I think a lot of people will find too that when they do that stuff, they'll be like, oh, I actually take off more on my left on a broad jump than I do on my right, and that gives them the opportunity, a diagnostic window to kind of fix that. That's kind of what a warm-up is too. It's diagnostic, right? Because sometimes you come in, you warm up, and I've definitely done this where I warm up and I want to hit a big lache, and I'm like, and my shoulder's like, and I'm like, nope, okay, we're doing strides today.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if I didn't do a priming warm-up, like you're saying, an intentional warm-up that's targeted towards what I was going to do, I would never have got that. I might have gone for a big lache after running 400 meters and just freaking tore my shoulder up and been out for the next couple of days.
Ooh, yeah, that is tough. When you do a real long warm-up and then you do this thing that you thought your warm-up was preparing you for, and
you just
it
feel
hurts.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I guess I wasted 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So that your warm-up has to be intentional and targeted towards your goal. Yeah, I love that. You got any other ones? Sorry, I didn't mean to steal from you.
That's pretty good. Yeah. I'll let you guys go.
Mine's gonna be. It definitely piggybacks off of being intentional, but it's gonna be set the same key skills.
Yeah.
So if I go to a session, I'm like a for lack of a better term, I'm a pen and paper guy, meaning I have to have my training sessions written down unless they're like dance. And even then, I'm like 5 minutes top rock, 5 minutes, footwork, 5 minutes this, and then I leave the open. But I'm still like kind of windowing things. But when it comes to like lifting or skill specific training, it's dialed down to the minute, right? And I know my warm up is like 5 sets of this, 3 sets of this, and that makes it super easy for me because after a 1 week into whatever program I'm on, I come in, I don't have to reference my stuff. I know exactly what my warm up is. I can just jump right into it. Have my headphones on. I'm doing my stuff. As soon as I finish it, I go to the next thing. I'm doing this warm up. This is my warm up, in case you're wondering. And then I go to the next thing, right? And that makes it super fast for me because I don't have to check things. And phones when you're working out, get it away from you. If you need to, bring your laptop instead of your phone, because your laptop is going to be very awkward to browse Facebook on at the gym. Mm-hmm. But it's very easy to take notes on, or if you need to like reference a YouTube video or something like that. But if you're on your phone, they're designed to pull you in. Yeah. So you'll hop on your phone, you'll check Instagram, you'll sit there and your rest, and then your rest becomes 3 minutes, and that's how your half an hour of actual work becomes 2 hours at the gym. Mm-hmm. So that's gonna be my thing: is set the same warm up, or kind of like write it down beforehand so you know exactly what you're gonna do, and use something other than your phone to track that, if you have the luxury.
Yeah, I think my more recent approach that's good when you know what you're doing. Like I've been a little more explorative in my stuff, so like I would say that, gosh, because I do write stuff down. Like stuff is written down for me.
Yeah, but you also have like a very big. For a lot of people, you have a much larger repertoire of experiences around warm-up. So you're able to explore because you already know that's a weed, that's a flower.
That's true.
Right? So you're really exploring the field of flowers, whereas most people are like, I don't know, they're all plants.
Yes.
So that's why I wouldn't recommend exploration if you're not already experienced around it. But sorry, I didn't mean to say.
I think you're right. I think maybe there's some hybrid there for newer folks where it's like a combination of like what Justin's saying, where it's like pick something you can get better at. So then if you do your entire warm up and you can't do or whatever it was you intended to do at the end of the day, you
got some practice.
You practiced something, but leave some structure to it. Otherwise, you'll end up on your phone. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Unless, like for me, at the level I'm at, sounds like I sound like an asshole when I say that. When is more like, how do I get into that mindset, that mode? It's not how do I find the harmonic convergence, right? Yeah. You know what I mean? Yep. And that's what I'm chasing at the beginning of all of my workouts, is how do I get that experience to be humming and tuned in. And then if I decide to go another route, I'll just go it. Lots of times I have 3 options. Oh, I'm going to do like parkour, I'm going to do b-boy, I might do some martial arts forms, I might do upper body calisthenics. I know I'm going to train, have 4 dedicated sessions in a week. 2 of those need to be calisthenics. 2 of those need to be more directly related to movement exploration or training and fun. And at that day, I might start doing the warm-up stuff that you're talking about. I might get the cues that like Justin's talking about, where it's like, ooh, or no, you're saying the shoulder. Okay, well then I guess we're jumping on stuff today. Yeah. And then boom, I have to spend that currency anyway. And I actually hold back. Like I don't just impulsively every day train what I want. I say this day during this week, I'm pretty much going to pick, one from, I get to eat. It's like flavors on a menu. It's like, okay, I get ramen today, and ramen for me is strides. And in a week, I get to do strides once, because I know that if I get excited about strides and do them more than maybe twice a week, I will end up with some sort of like inflammation in my foot. Like that just is gonna happen. Yeah. I'm gonna piss off some part of my body. And so I'm like, cool, dude, you can do that. And then don't worry, if you spent that, you've still got top rock you can work on. And so building that library is that lateral progression. And I think that's really cool to use warm-up as an opportunity to build those skills. Jesse said, pick something that you can, did you say pick something you can get better at? Yeah. Right. Yeah, you say pick something you can get better at. So, but you said, like, if you realize your left leg doesn't work very well on takeoffs or something like that, then the warm-up is a really good time to spend like the every other on, not every other, but but double down on what you're bad at. So like one of the things I do in a warm up, I do my 2 out of 3. So it'll be like if I'm doing left leg takeoffs on my stride, and I know I'm gonna end up using my right leg, which is my power leg. But during the warm up, I might prime left twice as much as right.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of warming up, if I'm gonna do if I'm gonna do 3 reps of strides for setups, instead of doing switching between and starting with my good leg, I'm going to start with my bad leg, do my good leg, 2 to 1
be intentional
ratio.
about priming your offside or your weaker side more than your strong side, because it's just not getting the amount of stimulus that it obviously needs during a regular
Exactly.
training
And another way I do this is if I'm going to do even if I'm hopping and I'm trying to strengthen on my left leg, I'll just do double on one and single on the other. So I'll be like left, left, right, left, left, right, left, left, right, instead of hopping left, right, left, right, left, right. Or if I stretch and let's say my right's really tight for like external and pigeon, I might and if I have 2 sets programmed in my warm up and there are 30 seconds, I might do 3 reps on the right leg, I might do 2 reps on the right leg and then 1 on the left, and then another 2 on the right leg and then 1 on the left. So I'm getting more work in that time, more attention on that side of the body, which is another way to
and if
sneak
at
those
the
in.
end of your warm up you're like, actually I don't feel like doing what I came here to do, you've at least targeted a weak spot, which is the goal of working out and training anyways, is to improve any weaknesses that you have, and you did that, right? And you used your warm up time efficiently, targeted. That I would say is also beneficial if you know what your warm up is going to be, because then you can always modify it on the fly. I had 4 sets of pigeon 2 and 2. Now I'm going to do 3 and 1. You know what I mean? If you know your warm up already, you have it already planned out. It's a lot easier to modify and change it on the fly than it is if you go in and kind of let the winds take you.
Yeah, I would say you also work on the minimum effective dose for your warm up stuff. If you've got something that's more compound or can actually train multiple things, like the split squat is a great example of that. I don't usually warm up my ankles, stretch my ankles separately from my hips, from my quad. I just do split squats, and I don't do them nonchalantly. I use it. I give a lot of intention.
Yeah, so. Everything's got to have focus and warm up. This makes me want to warm up. This makes me want to warm up.
I know. I'm like, I want to go see some Top Rock now. I want to toss out real quick, though, a challenge to anybody that's listening that's like, oh, cool. My warm-ups don't feel as intentional or as speedy or efficient as possible. Map out a warm-up, or don't map out. If you already have kind of like what you normally do, I want you to start a timer for 10 minutes and set that aside. So just go, and then go do your warm-up and see at what point that 10-minute timer goes off. Because I think for a lot of people, you're going to be in your warm-up, that timer is going to go off, and you're going to be like, wow, that was 10 minutes. I only got 2 sets of this done, and I have 10 sets of work prescribed. And then you're like, oh, well, there's where all of my time wasted in the gym goes, right? And then you can begin to dial down and be like, was I walking around and just goofing off, or was I in which case I need to cut out sets from my warm-up. But try that challenge, because I could tell you right now, if I was going to do heavy back squats, I could walk down there and I will take 6.5 minutes to finish my warm-up. I know that exactly. It's 6.5 minutes.
And what would be cool is if you could work to get that down.
Well, yeah, that's my intention. Although, it's pretty tight. It's
that's tight.
It's
that's about
right in there. Right. Yeah, and the only reason I know that is because I play 2 songs. One song's 3 minutes, and one song's 3.5. And if I don't finish my warm up by the time that song ends, then I'm like, I'm slow today.
And then for max rep, you're saying 6 minutes to your max then?
It's 6 minutes to be I'm ready to work. I'm ready to squat heavy. And that's just my squat one. I have a couple of other ones that I'm not quite dialed in on. But I know it's 6.5 for that one. So
that's pretty reasonable. Good.
Yeah, right?
I think also everybody needs to find a mirror in their house, put it in their bedroom, lock the door, find some music, and learn how to top rock. I don't think you're going to learn top rock in front of us. Top rock is something that you're going to be so bad at when you start that it almost has to be solo for you to get into like a flow state. But if you haven't gotten that and you haven't tried to develop style on the simplest form, because it's very hard to develop style while you're flipping or while you're jumping between obstacles. I think you should do it, because it is it brings out something in you that you just cannot do in front of other people. I feel like unless you're super extremely extroverted and you thrive on the energy of other people, like an energy vampire. What was that term that we used?
Yeah,
we talked about that before.
Energy vampire would like stand and talk to you while you were trying to top rock,
yeah.
and by the time he was done, you would not be. I didn't get anything in. That's
So yeah,
energy
learn to
vampire.
top rock, guys. It's very
It's fun. And
Yeah.
you get that nice little like dopamine hit that
It is.
will help
There's
you with your
dopamine.
workout anyways.
Yeah, again, I'm going to go back to say, like, I've been thinking a lot about this. Like, we were talking about the sort of different selections that you can have in movement and that broader range and why that matters. I want to say that there are different flavors. It's not just like, oh, when I train, I feel particularly good. Different movement disciplines can give you a different flavor of that, of that high to some degree, of that focus to some degree. And I think, and I'm open to being swayed on this, but because I've been able to study a couple different disciplines, I feel like for me, parkour builds confidence. Like when I want to feel more confident in myself, I would intentionally. There are other things too, but this is the one for me that's a big one. I will do more parkour when I want to feel more engaged and build my self-esteem. Sometimes I will look at or not self-esteem, but my courage. Build courage. Then I look at a parkour. For dance, for me, that's self-esteem and happiness. Like if I'm feeling depression for whatever reason, or what feels like could be depression coming on, or not just kind of happy, I will just dance. Like that is hands down makes me the happiest. When I need discipline, which I don't need at this point in my life as much, or a sense of depth in a spiritual way of training, I like martial arts for that. And so there's the different disciplines and it may be different for you. Like this isn't the same for everybody. That might slide around for folks or whatnot. But if someone's asking me, like, I've had people ask me recently, both in my adult classes and my private clients, like, what should I work on right now? And the approach I took versus saying, like, where were their physical deficits was I was like, where's their psychological opportunities? Like, well, how do you feel right now? And if they're like, oh, I feel pretty good about stuff. Okay, so you feel pretty confident, right? Yeah, but were you motivated? Were you feel? I don't feel very motivated. I'm a little run down emotionally, and I feel like I need something to kind of build me up. Oh, is that coming from like a sense of like, do you need accomplishment, or do you just need to be happy? Oh, I really just like, how often are you happy? Oh, I'm not that happy that often. Okay, why don't you do dance this cycle? Or if someone's like, I have a lot going on in the future. I'm gonna try to do a job interview. I need to feel confident. I need to feel like strong. I'm gonna go in. I'm like, oh, you do some martial arts, build your discipline, build your sense of strength up, hit some stuff. Do boxing, you know what I mean? Get that up. Or if someone's like, yeah, I feel like I'm not accomplishing a lot, I'm not achieving a lot, or like I back away from things, and I don't have that sense of like courage, then I would be like, okay, it's time for you to do some challenges. Yep, you can do some parkour. I think it'd be a really cool way. You have to have an absolute wizard of a coach, right? Like I don't even have that honed in, but wouldn't that be cool if that was sort of like one of the indicators that's used instead of just like, oh yeah, your broad jump sucks, so you're doing broad jumps this cycle. It's like, okay.
Now I want to add like psychological profile to my pre-workout questionnaire for all my clients.
I think
because I have it where it's like, how'd you sleep? How stressed are you? How sore are you? I have those things on there, and I want to
like rate courage, happiness, confidence, like things like that, but positive, not like negative stuff, but just rate those. And like, when they're low and
feeling like crap today or not, like what area do you feel the strongest, or what area do you feel the weakest?
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Could be really cool.
All right, friends. Well, thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you were listening to this and getting a lot of good tips about how to, improve your warm-up. If you already have a rock-solid warm-up, share it with us. We'd love to see it. If you don't have a rock-solid warm-up, use these to tune in and dial it in. We will catch you next week.
That's right, you guys. Oh, we should throw in the shameless plug for the where to listen to the podcast or the show. Jesse always does a good job of that. So we are on Spotify. We are on YouTube. We are on
Apple Podcasts.
And we are also on,
Are we on Facebook now too? Well, we've had a Facebook page, but can we upload to Facebook too?
Yeah, probably could.
Cool. So now we're on Facebook too as of this episode. So check us out wherever is most convenient for you. And if you really like this stuff, feel free to share it to your friends and family. If you know that dude in the gym who's like just wastes his warm up doing Bosu ball squats, send him this.
Bosu ball wrist isolations.
Let us talk the wisdom into him. Don't be that guy.
Yep. Or just throw something at him.
All right.
All right, guys.
Peace.
See ya.
Peace.